Ogoniya had long been quiet, framed by the gentle rise of the hills and the slow sway of the river. Yet a shadow had fallen upon it that no one could explain. Mothers whispered at the market, fathers glanced nervously at their doorways, and children slept uneasily, sensing the tension that wrapped Ogoniya like a thick fog. It began subtly at first. A young girl found cold and unresponsive at dawn, her breath stolen in the night. Then a boy, strong and healthy the day before, was discovered lifeless beneath the stars, his family's screams cutting through the early light. The villagers murmured about curses, old spirits, and ancestral anger, yet no one dared speak the truth aloud. These deaths had a source, and it was human. Years before, a man named Daike had walked quietly among them. Gentle, kind, known for his honesty, he tilled a land, greeted every passerby with respect, and loved one woman above all others, his wife, Asa, who carried his unborn child. Daike was a man without enemies, whose life was simple and whose dreams were modest. Yet even the purest of lives can be shattered by lies, and in Ogoniya, whispers could kill faster than stones. Senna had loved Daike once, or perhaps she thought she had. Her pride had been wounded, her heart bruised by his rejection, and bitterness took root where forgiveness should have grown. In a moment of spite, she spoke words that would poison Ogoniya. Daike, she said, had violated her, had taken from her what he had no right to claim. No witnesses were summoned, no council convened. The villagers, fueled by anger and the desire for swift justice, seized him. Stones rained down upon him, the echoes of the blows mingling with the cries of horror and disbelief. By nightfall, an innocent man lay buried among criminals, his name soiled, his legacy tainted, and his family shattered. Asa did not collapse in despair. She did not scream or fight, though her heart ached beyond measure. She knelt in the quiet of her home, her hands pressed to the earth, murmuring prayers that trembled with grief and righteous fury. She prayed not for vengeance, not for retribution that would satisfy her own desire, but for the truth to arise and for justice to be done, even if she were the only one who believed in it. And then the curse began. It was subtle at first, almost imperceptible, but soon the nights in Ogoniya were filled with dread. Young men and women began dying in their sleep, each family struck with grief. One child, then another, then a succession that could not be ignored. Panic spread faster than disease. Parents kept their children awake, elders wandered aimlessly through the streets, and the village grew hollow with fear. They cried out to ancestors, consulted charms, and tried every ritual known to them, but nothing could halt the unseen hand that claimed lives beneath the moon. As the count of the dead reached 20, desperation gripped Ogoniya. The elders, who had long avoided confrontation with uncomfortable truths, now sought the counsel of the chief priest, a man reputed to see beyond the veil of the ordinary. He accepted no payment, asked no questions, but closed his eyes and entered a vision, a space where the living and the spirits intersected. There, he saw the truth. Daike had been innocent, Senna's accusation false, and the weight of unjust death had unleashed a vengeance that was neither blind nor arbitrary. The chief priest's voice trembled when he recounted the vision. He said, "The man wronged still walks among us, restless, seeking acknowledgement of his innocence. Until it is done, the night will claim the young, and Ogoniya will lend sorrow instead of wisdom." The villagers, fearful and shamed, realized the magnitude of their error. Daike's body was retrieved from the criminal's grave, a place unfit for the innocent. With care and reverence, they laid him in Ogoniya's cemetery, a proper resting place among those of honor. Asa, standing with her child at her side, watched the men lower the coffin, her tears glimmering under the sun that finally seemed to break through the darkness. Senna, the architect of the ruin, was banished from Ogoniya. Her cries, filled with regret and fear, faded into the wilderness, leaving behind only the echoes of the chaos she had wrought. The deaths ceased. The nights grew calm. The villagers, chastened by grief and enlightened by truth, began to understand a lesson they had ignored. Never condemn without inquiry, never judge without knowing, and never allow pride or fear to outweigh the scales of justice. And yet, the memory of Daike's life and the tragedy that followed became a story whispered from house to house, generation to generation. Parents would speak of him not merely as a man wronged, but as a symbol of integrity and patience. They would tell their children of Asa's unwavering faith and the price of lies. They would say that truth, though it may sleep, will awaken and demand acknowledgement, and that justice, delayed by folly, is nevertheless inevitable. The river that ran by Ogoniya seemed clearer after Daike's burial, reflecting the sky with a purity that had been absent for too long. The winds carried a quieter song, as if the earth itself had exhaled, releasing the weight of sorrow. Even the trees seemed to bend differently, bowing to honor a man who never sought power, who only lived and loved with honesty. And in the stillness of each night thereafter, no parent feared the sleeper's breath. No mother wept alone for a child gone too soon, and no villager could deny the power of truth. The tale of Daike and Asa, of the cursed nights and the eventual justice, became legend, not for the fear it inspired, but for the lesson it imparted. That honor lies in seeking the truth, that courage resides in patience, and that a life taken unjustly echoes far beyond the grave, demanding that the living learn from its sorrow. Generations later, travelers would speak of Ogoniya, where the curse had been lifted, where justice had been restored, and where the story of a man wronged and a woman faithful inspired all who heard it. Whisper Taleks would remind them in every retelling that no lie, however cleverly told, can outlive the weight of truth. That even in darkness, integrity shines. That even when the innocent fall, their memory becomes a beacon for the living. And so, under the moon and the stars, Ogoniya learned what it had ignored for too long: the cost of falsehoods, the peril of hasty judgment, and the enduring power of faith in truth. Daike's name, once stained by lies, became a symbol of vindication. Asa's silent strength became a lesson in patience and devotion. And the village, forever changed, carried their story forward, a tale of sorrow, justice, and the quiet courage that turns grief into wisdom.